So thanks for that lovely introduction there, Porrick. And welcome all again to Meet Smarter 2012 here in the lovely Killarney. My name's Simon Geraghty. I'm going to be running through, we've got the agenda here, how to go about planning your hybrid meeting and some important things to take into consideration, as well as a couple of practical how-to guides that you can get started on here today if you want. Next up is Damien Mully from Mully Communications, who will take some of his rich experience from some of the events that he's run himself, notably the social media awards, Sockies, etc., and show stuff that's really worked for him in terms of publicising events that he's run very much in the hybrid space. We'll have our networking and comfort break. I think it's more networking than comfort, but you can do whatever you feel like. And then after that, we have Stephen O'Leary up talking about, okay, now we've done all this great stuff. How do we measure it? How do we see what was talked about, what worked for us, what didn't? So he'll be taking his great expertise and looking at some strong case studies there to bring it all home. I'll be back up then giving us our conclusions from the day, and we'll be running a panel discussion with Porrick, Damien and Stephen. So we'll be fielding questions from within the room here, from people on the web stream, and on the tweet wall behind us. Okay? So I'll kick into my slides now. Great. It's all running so smoothly, guys. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to trip up and fall off this podium now. So I feel like Tom Cruise in Magnolia with this mic upset, but I'm not going to say the line that springs to mind. Okay, so introducing social media for B2B events. And we're here primarily to talk about B2B type events, because that's the background that most of you guys are from, meetings, conferences, etc. My name is Simon Geraghty. I run Dotdash. We're a cloud-based digital agency specializing in strategy, content development and management, and creative design and execution. We're a new enough business. We set up about 9 months ago. We haven't even had a full year trading. So thanks to the guys here at MCI who I've been working with already on a few projects to invite me down today and be part of this great event. So what I'll be talking about with you is social media at the planning stage of your event from a marketing point of view, and then some practical how-to tips on using LinkedIn, Twitter and Facebook to help spread the message and publicize your event. I've left space for questions at the end, but as we're having the Q&A, you can either ask me directly or we'll hold off until the Q&A. Okay? And this tool is called Prezi, that I love. And having left the corporate world where it was death by PowerPoint, this is the only tool that I use for presentations now. And there's a free plug if Prezi want to give me a check for that. So into the planning phase. The most important thing to consider is that social isn't an afterthought anymore. It's not something that should sit outside your marketing activity. It should be front and center and considered right at the outset in the planning of your marketing activity. Quite often it's something that's a tag on. People might turn to Damien, myself, or Stephen and say, okay, how do we suddenly promote this event on Facebook or Twitter? It needs to be something that you give considered time and thought to right at the outset. It shouldn't be something late to the table. So I'm going to do some high-level benefits. I guess most of us know the real benefits of social in terms of publicity, but as Porrick mentioned, or Porticino, as his name on Twitter, with his Italian background and love, you're building in participation. So rather than a linear one-way speaker dialogue between you and the audience, the conversation on Meet Smarter was happening a couple of weeks back. So you have speakers talking about your event, people who are coming to the event talking. A lot of the partners have been tweeting away using the Meet Smarter hashtag. So you're giving a shelf life to your meeting and event that's before, during and after it. And every time it's talked about, that's promoting the event. The next benefit to you guys is crowdsourcing. So say you're running an event year after year, you can actually tap into what your audience wants to hear more of and less of and ask them. So the guys at MCI ran a poll just kind of gauging people's knowledge of and expertise around social and digital marketing. So they were able to draw on that and helped us kind of pitch the level that the presentation should be at. Do we go right down to some technical information, or do we keep it trying high level? So hopefully the level that it's pitched at today matches your knowledge and understanding. And then the final benefit is aiding in the event management itself. I was at the Dublin Web Summit last year, and they had kind of two main rooms for speakers. There was a big auditorium where all the tech startups were based, and a small tent for the social media. As it turned out, the speakers they had on the day were from Twitter, LinkedIn, so there was great appetite to see these guys. So by monitoring the tweet wall, the feed, and the activity around the Dublin Web Summit, they realised that one room wasn't going to be big enough, so they switched the things around. As it turned out, they ended up having fairly seamless transition between the two. Maybe they had a couple of bruised egos on the technology side in terms of people who were downsized to a smaller tent. But in terms of having a Twitter wall or a Facebook feed that was lambasted with, I can't get in, I'm queuing, I can't hear people, they avoided all that and were able to turn on a dime on the day and ensure the smooth running of the event. Taking it outside of a B2B context, Forbidden Fruit Festival, which is kind of run up the road for me in IMA, in its second year now. In year one, their Twitter and Facebook was totally attacked with people saying, I can't get a drink, I'm stuck in a queue for 90 minutes, I'm missing all the bands. Now, I know there's a balance between drinking and music at Irish festivals, but you need to get it right for happy punters. So day one, their social media was taken up with people giving out yards non-stop about not being able to get a drink at the festival. So in fairness to the guys, they took it on board. They sat up all through the night working on putting up some extra bar premises. And day two, they ended up getting complimented, told about how they managed to turn their event around and drove a real success. So you're driving loyalty by listening to people and taking on their feedback, whether that's good, bad, or indifferent. And as I said earlier, social is word of mouth. Where people are talking about your event socially, they're publicizing your event. So by reaching out to influencers, journalists, bloggers, social media leading lights such as Damien and Stephen down there below, who are probably going to kill me for saying that, by getting those guys talking about your event, you're reaching out to a group of followers that they have. And in terms of if you were to sit down and purchase those impressions, it would cost you a couple of thousand. So while social media is not free by any sense, getting people conversing about your event and activity is publicizing it. Each one of their friends, followers, likers who talk about your event are promoting it to all the people that follow and like them. So step one in planning your event is make sure that you set up a base camp for the event. So in the case of this event, there was the Meet Smarter website, but your base camp can be anything from a Facebook page, a blog page, a LinkedIn events page, because I guess there's a scale of things that people are working on here. If it's a meeting that involves kind of 30 to 50 people, will you go as far as develop a fully fledged website? Whereas for Meet Smarter today, they developed a website. Quite often, Damien will set up dedicated websites to the events that he's running, but this is where you want to direct traffic, eyeballs, attention. A lot of the viewer activity, the reader activity needs to go back to there, because ultimately you want people to register for your event, read about your event, find out about your event, and engage with your event. So by sorting out what is that base camp, that means that everything that flows from there should be pointing back to that one start point. Next up then is look at who your audience is. What do you know about them? Who are they? What age group are they in? Are they highly active in social media? Is email a primary mode of contact? Are they more likely to be on Facebook? Is it a business to consumer type event? Is it B2B? So are they on LinkedIn and Twitter? So you need to take the time to think about who they are, figure out as much as you can about them, use tools like SurveyMonkey, etc., to go out and poll your audience in terms of seeing who they are, what they are. Find out as much as you can about them. And then the most important thing is where they're based. What channels are they using? There's no point putting all your time and effort into something like Flickr if it's not a very visual or rich medium in that sense. Facebook has its time and place. It's obviously the biggest social network and brings volume, but in terms, we were talking earlier, myself and Damien, if you're talking accountants to accountants, they're not typically conversing with each other about accountancy, software package, etc. in the realm of Facebook. So maybe that's not a channel for you to use for that particular event. So it's about the depth and knowledge of your audience, and I guess that's what you should know about your members, and MCI will be finding out on behalf of you as well. Learn as much as you can about the audience before you set up and choose your channels. And as I say, choose your channels accordingly. So to kind of harness a point I made earlier, if your audience is not very social, if they're not out there, if they're not talking to you already, don't expect big feedback and conversations from them. Your event won't trend on Twitter if your attendees and viewers are not social animals themselves. So yes, it will benefit. It'll give longevity to your event, etc. But going back to the earlier point, and not to harp on about it, if your audience aren't there, there's no point using it. So next is to sit down and plan out a cycle of content. So across the weeks and months before, during, and after, and your cycle of activity should be that typical bell curve of activity that in the run-up to the event, when you're quite far out from the event, you're not actually talking a hell of a lot about it. In the weeks and days running up to the event, there's should be more people talking, commenting about the event. In the couple of days afterwards, people are still excited about the event, talking about singing Volare or whatever the occasion, whatever that momentous thing that was created on the day. So you take advantage of that natural cycle of your event. You're not going to have the same level of activity across 12 months on the year on your event. And hopefully when we look at Stephen's slides, it'll show that kind of cycle of commenting and conversation on the event. So sit down and think about what do you have to say. How often should you say it? And going back to my point, what stage in the cycle of the event is it? And what's the proximity to the event itself? So you're ramping up as you come towards the event. So before the event, content is key. What are the locations? What are some of the photos of the locations that you're going to be at? What's your agenda? Do you have any photos or videos from the year before? During the event, tools such as the tweet wall that we have here, the web stream, people talking about the event on the day and hopefully participating and interacting is really adding value. And that platform is there. People will be talking about your event whether you're there or not. So it's better for you to be there and engage with that conversation rather than ignoring it. And then after, your photos and videos are the most effective event promotion tools. These will drive the most comments, likes, retweets, blogs. People want to see pictures of themselves, videos that they're in, share on the event and their experience of the event. So your richness of content, the richer your content, the more likely it is to be commented on. And Stephen, I'm not 100% sure. Has your findings shown that things like photos and videos drive the most likes, comments, retweets? Hopefully. Much more often than yeah. With the big light shining off my bald head. It's your comparison to Tom Cruise, I think, is probably. Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to have to keep looking over my shoulder to see when that comes up. Someone give me a nod out there in the audience. So sit down and spend time brainstorming your content. What are the big changes in your field? So if it's beekeeping, what are the big changes in the sector, articles and blogs that you can put out and get people interested? Top 10 style articles and infographics are very shareable and talkable. People are increasingly consuming things in very shorthand fashion, so make that as easy as possible for them. Announce the speakers at the event, talk about who they are, what their background is, what their strengths and weaknesses are. Promote the format and the location. So the guys were talking about the web stream. There's been lots of huge dialogue around the venue of Killarney itself. So a lot of the hotels, the restaurants have been joining the conversation, and it's been great to see following that hashtag. Any survey results you have on the topic, and I know the guys did run a survey and they'll be promoting it themselves. After the event then, the slides, the keynotes, put them out through the likes of SlideShare, etc. Show people the caliber of content that you had on the day and what type of knowledge was imparted to people. And videos, photos, I can't emphasize enough kind of the richness of content. So the guys have videographers, camera people, and the web stream. So they'll have a lot of rich content to tap into. So when they're talking about Meet Smarter next year, they'll have a whole array of material to give people a real taste and experience of what it was like for those of you in the room here today. And always remember that a social conversation is it's a two-way dialogue. It's not a one-way street. So this is my little shorthand to illustrate that point. Traditional marketing was quite often seen as someone kind of just broadcasting in a linear direction, come to my event, buy tickets, register now. Social, people kind of forget there's the media point to social media, but the social is the more important driver. It's a conversation. It's about engaging people. If someone says they're excited, say that you're looking forward to see them, thank them for coming. The hellos, thank yous, goodbyes. It's all really important. It's not just a linear, old-fashioned kind of, I'll broadcast my message out and it's consumed by consumers at the end point. And obviously, there's the opportunity to exchange contacts with people and firm those up into real-life contacts. Is that your Siri working away there, Pádraig? So I'll get into a couple of the practical guides. So starting with LinkedIn, which is kind of seen as the B2B tool. How to go about setting up your event. So go in, set up the event itself, make sure you include the key details, the date, the time, and the location. Upload your logo and stand out from the crowd. When you go through the event section in LinkedIn, you'll be amazed by how many people set up various meetings, product launches, events, conferences without any sort of logo. And particularly for your bigger conferences and trade shows, there could be lots of side and spin-off events. So if you are the main event, you want people to see that your logo is up there and that people are actually coming to the right thing. I spoke at a conference called Confex in London earlier this year. Because of the scale of the event, there was 5 or 6 people running smaller events around it, but without clear logos, you couldn't tell whether you were actually signing up to the live event itself or some of the smaller fish. So you want to make sure that using the Meet Smarter logo that the guys have done very well, branding everywhere, when that comes into your inbox, that you know that you're coming to the right event. Then you're given the opportunity to tell more about the event. Your first line should be punchy and really hit home to people in terms of what the event's about, what the benefit to them is in coming here. Use a short but very powerful description to and drive a call to action there, and provide off-site registration. So while running the event, promoting it through LinkedIn is good. Going back to that Basecamp point, people need to go back to the main website or blog or whatever that page is to capture the registrations. And you need to signpost that at every touch point that you're creating. Finally, and this is kind of the step-by-step. If you're on your laptops, you could be doing this alongside me. LinkedIn will allow you then to promote your event through LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. So the buttons are there for you to hit on and put it out through your business Twitter page, through your business Facebook page. And it's kind of done in a very foolproof manner, very easy to use. So encourage your attendees and non-attendees alike to promote the event on your behalf. So friends, colleagues, the MCI guys have been using all their offices around the world to promote the event quite well. Who are the various members in your organizations, in your sector, that can help kind of push the event out on your behalf? And then the next point is, there's lots of LinkedIn groups out there to promote your event. Now, take the time to see, is the group relevant for your sector? And if it is relevant, is it an active group in the sector? You go in and see some groups, particularly in the marketing space. It's filled with a variety of people who are just selling their own wares, selling their products. It's that kind of linear one-way conversation rather than a genuine dialogue. So if you do find the right groups, make sure that you're in there contributing to the group, contributing to the discussion, and adding value to the members of that group rather than just being the next person in line to say, register for my event, register for my event. I can't emphasize enough that it's social for a reason. Promote it on your LinkedIn company page. Sorry, I've jumped 2 steps there. And then the last piece, LinkedIn is a tool that kind of almost allows you to do a tailored email newsletter. So you can aggregate your friends, followers, or connections, in the LinkedIn space, by geography, by sector. So you can send out personalized, tailored invites to people, bringing them along to your event. So this complements any email and other marketing channels that you're using in the traditional sphere. So the event here, the example I have here is the very successful Archie Talks that John Egan and the guys run up in Dublin. Has someone just done a magic spell there? That was a lovely sound. So a quick show of hands. A lot of people think that LinkedIn is the beginning and end of social for business. So could I get a show of hands in the room here, and on the webcast, I'll just hope that you're sitting there putting your hand up. Who has a LinkedIn profile here in the room? Okay, we pretty much have 100%. And who checks that daily? Keep your hand up if you do. Okay, so less than half of you. Now, who has a Facebook profile in the room? Again, 100%. Who checks that daily? So we had about 70% of the hands stay up that time. And finally, who's on Twitter? Okay, it's a smaller group, and stay up if you're active on Twitter daily. So good half of the people. So LinkedIn, okay, it is the business-to-business site, but in terms of the level of dialogue, the volume of engagement and discussion that's going on there, Facebook and Twitter have much more active communities. People are much more, there's a faster flow of information there. So if you're bypassing those channels, you're missing an opportunity to speak to your audience. So I'll move on to Twitter. Sorry, it's very hot up here. So the how-to I'm going to look at is how to develop a hashtag for your event. And if anyone hasn't seen it at this point, the hashtag today is MeetSmarter12. So tweet away. A hashtag is a great way for Twitter users to follow information on a particular subject or event. So if I'm interested in a particular TV program, the activity of a blogger, of an awards coming up, but just by clicking on that hashtag, I can follow the whole conversation going on for that particular event. So for the Meet Smarter event, you can see who's saying the good, the bad, the indifferent comments about the event, and you're fully informed in the conversation that's going on. It's great for developing communities around the likes of Vincent Brown, Celebrity Come Dine With Me, etc., etc. But it's also a benefit to you running your meeting or event. You're pulling in a group of like-minded people who are interested in the same subject and following the subject on that one hashtag. So make sure you announce that it's been created to alert your followers. So the guys here have done a great job. Hopefully I'll slip the fiver for giving kudos to MCI. But consistency is key. So once you do develop the hashtag, it means that you're setting the standard and people should be following that hashtag. Quite often, if the hashtag isn't clearly promoted, people will invent their own hashtags on the day. Someone might use the event props hashtag, meetings hashtag. So if you're guiding people and strongly promoting your hashtag, it means that the conversation can be kept kind of corralled under that one hashtag, and it's giving a greater volume and weight to the conversation that's going on, rather than each one of you in the room tweeting to your own personalized hashtag. So the guy has done a great job coming up with the hashtag and sticking to that hashtag for this event. So how do I create a hashtag and make it live? It's pretty easy. All you need to do is be on Twitter, put in the hashtag symbol, type the name of your event, and tweet it out there, and your tweet is live. Some quick tips: keep it short and easy. You've only 140 characters to use within Twitter, and they say the optimum for a retweet is 120 characters. So if you have a hashtag that gives you the time, the location, the date, and the name of your conference, there's very little room for anyone to say anything else about you. So keep it, the shorter the better. So a great example of a short hashtag is the Sockies. Good man, Damien, that was great. Great name for your event. And one of the things that Damien does quite often is develop that hashtag early, get the conversation going almost at the time that you've conceptualized the event. So that means the conversation is going in your event as early as you can. And if the conversation is happening using that hashtag, it means that your event has been promoted in that cycle weeks and months out from when it eventually happens. So I noticed the other day that for the Web Awards that are happening in November, that hashtag is already out there, it's being conversed upon, and people are talking about it already. And that's because Damien knows what he's doing. Be strategic in your use of a hashtag. This is a big conference that ran in the National College of Ireland recently, the DOT conference. there's enough information in that hashtag to give you a good idea of what it's about. So it's drawing in interest for anyone who's following in the sector, and that hashtag pops up on your tweet line. If you don't know what it is, you'll click on it, but you'll have a good guess in advance of that what it's going to be about. What you want is kind of key journalists, commenters, bloggers, outreachers taking notice organically of your hashtag and hopefully joining in the conversation as well. Hopefully that's not as far off the page for you guys as it is for me. Sorry that that's cut off. And the most important thing is to make sure that that hashtag isn't in use already, or you might have an acronym that is actually commonly used by a music band, by an upcoming movie. So don't be swamped by something that's at play, whether in use already by a band or a film. Take the time to stop, check, is that hashtag available? Okay, that's a great one. So the Sockies was available. I was amazed that was available, actually, considering the global nature of social media. You did well on that one. So make sure someone on the team is tasked with replying to users who have questions. So that can be an internal team member. I know that Ian up in the cheap seats there is tweeting away merrily on behalf of MCI. Alternatively, you can turn to an outsourced company to do it for you on the day if you don't have in-house expertise. So if people are saying, I've jumped on a plane, a train, an automobile to come here, say that you're excited to see them. If people are asking questions about where's the best place to stay, where's the best place to eat, jump in and engage on the conversation. And one thing I've noticed with the Meet Smarter hashtag is that all the local suppliers in the area have been great at responding to questions coming down about what should I do. I had a question about the quickest way to come down here. Was it through Limerick or Mallow? It's been a long time since I've been to Killarney, and within about 3 minutes, several of the locations down here responded, come via Limerick, you lunatic, what are you talking about? So on the day, make sure someone's tweeting at the event. So Ian will hopefully get lots of kudos for keeping the MCI Twitter wall alive. It's important that someone's monitoring it, filtering it, replying, affirming content, reinforcing behavior, retweeting people, and letting people know that they're not tweeting out there in a vacuum, that they're being listened to by the organisers of the conference. And ask some of your key attendees to do the same. So if you know certain bloggers or journalists are in the audience, most of them will do it anyway because they're Twitter addicts. But if you ask someone to kind of set them up in advance to use the hashtag, they should join the conversation themselves, and most people will do it naturally. The guys haven't put down their Apple Macs since the event started, managing their profiles as we speak. So this is my last kind of how-to section, Facebook for events. So as I said earlier, ensure that it's a relevant platform for your audience. It lends itself more to B2C than B2B, but the certain sectors are very active in Facebook, and the lion's share of social media users are there, so ignore it at your peril. You create a Facebook event like you'd set up any event, someone's birthday, a party. The reason it's so intuitive is part of its success. So you're setting up the event in the way you would with any other event on Facebook. Next is prevent your event on your banner on your homepage. Now, there are certain guidelines around how commercial that banner space can be. Take the time to stop and read that, or make sure that the third party doing it on your behalf is aware of how commercial or not it can be. But you can still put up views of Killarney, informational pieces, but promote it on the homepage. Invite people to the event. That's quite small. Again, I've taken the Archie Talks event as an example. So they have a very active Facebook page. The Archie Talks tells the stories of entrepreneurs under the age of 30. I think Stephen spoke at one of their events. Are you under 30? How did you get away with that? They won't let me in. So they have a very thriving Facebook page for the community. They invite all the users to each of the events that they do, and by each person saying they're going along, they're promoting it and publicizing it to their friends and followers. Promote the registration on your wall. But going back to the earlier point, I say make sure you're using the Facebook wall for other stuff as well, that you're putting up other rich content. Beware and be wary of just being linear, selling your own wares like a market stall trader on Facebook. It is social, it needs to be engaging and giving something back. So to finish, I'm finishing slightly ahead of time actually. So 5 social quick wins in socializing your event. Add social sharing buttons to the event's homepage. Make it easy for people. So if you have a like us on Facebook, share on Twitter, promote this button on your site, you're taking some of that pain away for people and giving it one easy click to promote the event on your behalf. Add the Twitter timeline to your homepage. You're showing kind of the excitement, the conversation that's going on. Make sure that that Twitter feed is active and living and breathing. There's nothing worse than going in somewhere, seeing a Twitter timeline that the last tweet happened 12 days ago. You might as well not have it as have it in that instance. So if you're going to have a vibrant Twitter timeline, put it in there. Promote your registrations across all your social channels. Plugins like Eventbrite, etc., will give you the chance to say that you're attending. Even things like Ticketmaster, when you buy the ticket, will let you share it on Facebook or Twitter. Build in those tools early. Use plugins that allow you to do that. But be wary of that the user is given the permission to socialize the event on your behalf. I saw something recently where users, by accepting signing up to a conference, were broadcasting it through Twitter. It was a very spammy looking message. I won't name and shame. People need to know that their permission is given before they promote your event. So the way Ticketmasters is set up is nice because you're asked if you want to tweet. Don't just surreptitiously tweet it on their behalf. People get quite irate. Add the Facebook's comments plugin to your event page, again, where it's where Facebook is relevant and there's a lively community and debate. And share all your keynotes, your photos on Flickr, your YouTube to display the photos and videos. By doing it through Flickr and YouTube, you're leveraging other social channels that are just driving up the organic search of your event and page and creating nice links out back and forth through the internet for you. So I'll take any questions if there are questions now, or you can hold off until the panel at the end. So I'll give it a second. Are there any questions there? I see a microphone drifting in. Bueller? They're dying for questions. I hope the panel is a bit chattier. Any questions? Yes. Make it an easy one.
I'll make it an easy one. Patrick O'Donoghue from the Killarney Convention Centre.
Hey, Patrick.
Just in relation to, say, Twitter and Facebook, how do you manage confidentiality? You know, I think a lot of corporates would be concerned about the content of the meeting. I would be concerned about, you know, stuff that they wouldn't like getting leaked out on Twitter or comments being made. And is there a way of kind of having a closed Twitter or a confidential Twitter, or are there other mediums that might be better than the more familiar social networks?
Yeah. So the question, just if it wasn't picked up on the web feed, is around if you have something that's quite information sensitive, confidential, what tools can you use in social in that space? I think Damien is going to speak about Yammer and some other enterprise level social tools. So they create that closed loop where it's only your own employees or select number of people that you've invited can join in that conversation. You don't want to be plugging something that's very time and event sensitive. You don't want competitors getting the jump on you. So if that's the nature of your meeting, if it's planning a 5-year conference, your strategy for 5 years, maybe Twitter and Facebook aren't the right tools, and investigate those more closed loop and enterprise class products instead.
Can I just make one comment as well? Because I was at a conference in Germany recently, and I had my data roaming turned off, and they had no free Wi-Fi in the where the conference was on, and it was a big issue for the delegates at the conference, because especially if there's international delegates attending, the likelihood is they're going to have their data roaming turned off because of the costs involved. So I think it's important for people to be conscious of that.
Yeah, and again for the web stream, if that wasn't picked up, in terms of data roaming, you need to be aware that there's Wi-Fi in the event in the venue. There's excellent Wi-Fi in the venue here today, so please tweet away. Don't be worried about incurring any cost that your CFO will kick the crap out of you afterwards. Mark, your own question?
Hi, Simon. Mark
your own
Egan.
question at your own event. That's
it's
good, man.
it's our event.
Good stuff.
Mark Egan from MCI. I believe that there's free Wi-Fi right throughout Killarney. How do you feel about that?
Very excited.
Me too. So it saves people an awful lot of money. Because if it's €15 a day and you've got 1,000 delegates over 4 days, that's going to add up. But if you free Wi-Fi everywhere, it's going to make it a very cost-effective place to be, especially for ICT companies, I believe.
Yeah, that's a great plug/question. I think I'll finish on that one.
Thanks.
Okay, so Simon Garrity, owner of Dotdash. We can help you out with any of this stuff if you want to have a conversation afterwards at any of the breaks or later on. And thanks to the MCI guys for inviting. So next up is social media's #1 citizen. I'm not going to say guru because he's told me not to say guru, and I won't say guru. I definitely won't say guru, I promise. So Damien Mully, the owner of Mully Communications, digital marketing consultancy, training, mentoring, blogger extraordinaire. He also runs the Social Media Awards and the upcoming Web Awards. So without further ado, I'll get Damien up to talk, and thanks very much.